this is Katie Burns, and you're watching Live Well. I'm a licensed mental health therapist, and I work in Chattanooga at Christian Counselor Cooperative. And I'm joined again by special guest, Ruth Burton, last week.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you're welcome. I really enjoy our time together.
I do too.
Which is why I keep inviting you back.
Good.
And last week we canned. That was really fun.
Right.
And
have you canned anything yet?
No, not yet. I got to go get my pressure cooker.
All right.
I've got the big pot though. I could have done tomato bath.
I'll take that
water bath.
For an excuse. You have to can while the produce is in.
And it is in.
Yes.
It is in season right now. Of course, I think this is going to air a little bit, maybe in the fall.
Okay.
But hopefully there'll still be some vegetables around for you guys to get on that canning. So today we're going to talk about books. You know that in the beginning of season 2 we talked about books for 2 episodes because we love them so much. And I think this is a really important part of living well, because you can, for ranging from 35 cents to free from your local library to an average of $20 for a book, give yourself a lot of help. Whether it's a self-help book or just escaping into a nice story. Well,
and it's part of that is you never want to stop learning.
Yes.
And you can learn so much through books, even fiction books.
Right.
Self-help biographies. And I read just in the past week that so many top business people, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and all the really successful people, set aside time each week to read a book about a topic they're interested in or something they can learn about.
I think that we often are forced to read early in life, in school, and maybe not something that interests us. And then we get out, we finish our education, and perhaps it just goes away with some people. I don't know. I'm seeing a rise in podcasts. Are you familiar? Do you follow any podcasts?
Not really.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of people, a lot of authors turning to podcasts.
Right.
And audiobooks, of course, which is the same thing. You're still getting the information in, but I think a lot of people are spending their time disconnected with their entertainment. And I feel like a book can be, for me, interactive.
Right.
Sometimes I think that the authors are my friends. Is that weird?
Kind of.
Oh, okay.
No, because through a book you do learn a lot about an author, I think.
The
viewpoint.
I'm just going to say that's how we became friends, because of your book.
Oh, good.
Well, technically, because I had you on the show
that's
season
right.
1.
Okay. Well, that's what's very
book.
valuable then.
Just local.
So, but of course, I've always loved books. But I think too, it really aids in your concentration. Now that we've so many sound bites and quick things, and even to watch an hour television program is becoming a commitment kind of thing.
No, it is.
So
sometimes I feel like this show is too long. That in social media they have these little 5-minute blips with things, and then they have the text at the bottom, so you don't even have to listen half the time, because we're such a fast society.
Well, and sometimes I go through Facebook and somebody will have a video, and it'll be like 3 minutes, and I think, oh, that's too long. Right. So am I the only one who does that? I was like, no, I don't want to spend 3 minutes on that.
3 minutes. I don't 3. Maybe like a minute.
Right.
I'll have a minute.
Right. But books, a good book, you will take you to a place, and you'll continue to think about it afterwards, and maybe some of the issues that are raised and the themes.
Right.
And
thought-provoking.
Right.
Bringing something new to the table.
Right. Getting you to look at something in a different way or from a different viewpoint.
Yeah, I think that's extremely valuable, and so that's why I have spent a lot of time with books, really as I've gotten older, because I didn't when I was younger, as we've talked about before.
Right.
But the ones that I brought today are a wide range of books. So, of course, I'm going to bring my clinical mental health books.
Right.
They're in here again. But are there any that you, with your book club or anything, have really gravitated towards lately?
Well, I read what I thought was a very interesting book last month. It was my turn to pick, and I picked The Pecan Man, which is now somewhat of a bestseller. It's a Southern writer set in the South of a lady and her relationships with people in her life and people who work for her. And it was very interesting. It had a little bit of mystery, but it had a lot of Southern culture in it. Well, and then we had book club, and I realized everybody else read a different book than I did, so I still enjoyed reading the book. So I may have to bring that up next time.
What did they?
We had a lack of communication.
Oh no! Oh no! What did
But
they
I
read?
still got to read the good book.
Okay.
Well, I had said earlier the book club.
Yeah.
I might pick that, but then I changed it, and apparently was not clear enough. So they're still going to read that at some point, The Pecan Man. But I think you'd enjoy that. I loved it. I loved it. I love Southern writers. One book that's a bestseller now, has been for several months, is Hillbilly Elegy by, I forget the first name, but it's Vance.
Okay.
He's a kid who grew up kind of between, mostly in southern Ohio, Kentucky, in a family that he describes as hillbillies. And it's really a look on the social culture and climate and why there's that class of people when they came out of coal mining.
Really?
When the coal mining jobs left, when a lot of people went north for manufacturing, how did that affect the culture and what happened? It was very interesting. Now, we read it in book club, and all our book club, I don't think any of us agreed with it completely, looking at it from our perspective. Like
that it wasn't true, or just didn't
some of the things didn't really resonate with us. But we understood it's one man's experience.
Right.
And he went on to serve with high distinction in the military and graduated, I don't know if it was Yale or Harvard, and has gone on, and now he's a Silicon Valley investor, so he's quite successful.
This is a true story?
It is.
Oh, it's not just a recount or a...
No, it's a true story. It's not only his true story, but it's very much his thoughts on the culture and why this whole group of people has been shaped like it has. And so like I say, some of it we agreed with and some of it we didn't, which makes it for a good read.
Oh yeah.
You can think about.
Right.
Think about that. What surprised me about that is some of the things seemed from where we live so basic, and yet people in other parts of the country thought it was odd.
Like what do you, small example?
I'd like to,
Can't
I
think
wish
of
I
one now.
could. I wish I could think of an example off the top of my
Like a
head.
benefit?
But, yeah, right. Thank you.
Well, that is, I mean, culturally, I mean, a benefit.
But some of it was from the aspect of very low education, coming from low education, and then do your children do better than you, and do their children do better than them, or are you held back by some of your societal norms?
Right. Well, you know, culture and society do play a role in your education, but some people believe that it doesn't matter about your education or where you get it. It just matters what you do with it. And that's a common question.
Part of that is if nobody in your family graduated from high school, then maybe that's not necessarily your goal because nobody else has.
Right.
It's that being able to look beyond and not limiting possibilities.
Yeah. I think it's a very, very common question and
So
thought-provoking.
We enjoyed that.
Okay, good.
We enjoyed it.
Well, some of the things that I brought Are you familiar with this old author?
I am so familiar with Irma Bombeck. My favorite quote is an Irma Bombeck quote.
Is it? What is it?
Oh, put me on the spot. Can I paraphrase?
Paraphrase.
It might not
Maybe
be.
it's in one of these books.
When I stand before God at the end of my life, I want to be able to say, I used everything you gave me.
Yeah. Yeah. That is very poignant.
Now look it up, and she probably said it way better than I did.
Well, this one's called "The grass is always greener over the septic tank."
Oh,
that may be my favorite quote that I'll be thinking of at the end. Well, and this is the family, the ties that bind and gag.
There's a lot of truth there, isn't there?
But you know, sometimes these classics, when I stand before God at the end of my life, I would hope that I would not have a single bit of talent left and could say, I used everything you gave me.
Isn't that good?
Yes.
What a great thought.
That's said much more concrete than what I think, but I always think I want to be at the end. I want to look back, when I'm 80 or 90 or however long I get to live on this earth and say, I didn't waste. I didn't waste. And sometimes I get really bogged down in that pressure because I think, am I doing the most that I can, but I don't want to do too much so that I'm not really.
Sure, there's a balance.
There's that ever striving balance that we could talk about forever, but this is part of balance.
Yes.
Something fun.
I do love Irma Bombeck.
And she has so many different. I just grabbed these two, but it's much more entertaining to read this than a lot of other things that we're reading in life.
Right.
Just a nice, happy, feel-good book that also makes you laugh at your own life.
Have you ever heard of Louis Grizzard?
No.
He was a columnist in Atlanta for many years, and I'm going back to kind of the time of Irma Bombeck.
Right.
And he was a columnist, and he put out several of his compilations as books, and they're really good too.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I may have to. Yeah, I may have to look that up for you.
And
I've got some
I'm sure
somewhere.
They're at the library. Or the library can get them for you.
But I'm sure.
This copy right here was 35 cents. So often you don't have to pay a lot.
Yeah, you didn't overpay.
Nice.
I think you can get your 35 cents worth if you're worried about it.
Now this book, are you familiar with this? Written by my husband. Just kidding.
I'm not.
It's David Burns, but it's not my husband. I have talked about this book for years in my practice. We were forced to read this in grad school. And it's called Feeling Good, the New Mood Therapy by David Burns, but not my David Burns. And it is therapy in a book. It's based on cognitive behavior therapy, which means the way you think affects how you behave. And if you go to any therapist and you have read this book, I guarantee you will see sprinkles of this come out because it's just that impressive of knowledge, that life-changing of knowledge, and it's so easy to read. It's not like
so
it's not unfriendly or clinical.
Just right.
And
just a layperson could read it, not somebody
can read
in
this. Anybody. In fact, it probably is going to flip over to my favorite part here, which is the definition of cognitive disorders, distortions. They have 10 of them that we commonly make. And, one, jumping to conclusions. How often do we do that? Or fortune teller error, where you think you know what's going to happen and you think it's going to be bad, so then you're worrying about things. You're causing distress, but you don't know because you're not a fortune teller. So some of the stuff you start to think,
Yeah.
I do that all the time.
Like most of the worst things that ever happened to me didn't actually happen, but
Right.
except in my own mind.
But you thought about it, especially if you have kids, right?
Right.
You
Oh,
can come up with some really quick things that are going wrong if, say, they're not answering their phone. Something bad has happened. They've had an accident.
that might have happened to me a time or two. I might have some experience.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that my mother had those same,
Yeah.
you know, thoughts. And now that I'm a mother, you know, my daughter can't call me yet, but
If they don't answer your first call or first text,
Right.
it's because they're being held hostage somewhere.
yeah, it can happen. So this book, you might have to pick it up occasionally.
But I'll give you a tip for when that happens.
Yeah.
When you really get to the end of it and need to know, you say, either you answer me or I'm coming there where you are.
Yeah.
That has never failed with me. Then I get that, well, I was trying to sleep.
I will
had to-
find you. I know. It's so hard because the balance on that is that, you know, you care, but
Right,
answer.
right,
Okay.
right.
All right, and then the next, I don't know if I've talked about this, but I counseled and worked with the men and women's basketball team at Lipscomb University.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I didn't know anything about basketball.
You weren't a basketball player?
No. Really, the only things that I did athletically was ballet and horseback riding. So this was very foreign, but the coaches wanted me to read this. It's Coach K's book, Leading with the Heart. This book is fantastic. Not just if you're going to coach a basketball team, or I didn't coach, but I counseled. It was about group unity and just, you know, having group cohesiveness and working together, because it's really what team is about. And sometimes there's a disconnect in athletics. So they brought in a counselor to help unify the team. That was me. But I didn't want to seem dense about the subject and come in there all, let's go, let's get together. So I read this book, and it was, you know, profound. And, you know, he's been a very successful coach. I don't know if, do you know who I'm talking about? Do you
I
follow
don't.
basketball? So this is Coach K, and his team is Duke University, Duke's basketball team. And he's been, you know, very successful over the years. And I've underlined so many things in this, but I believe that each team has to run its own race. I'm always looking to lead with the heart, which I think is interesting in athletics. You don't always see everybody talking about the psychology of it, but it's very much there. I mean, it's a very important part.
So did you make good progress with the team?
Yeah, it was, I loved it. I loved working with the team, and, you know, wish I could have done that, you know, for my entire life and work with athletics and, you know, the psychology of it. But those doors didn't open after that. It was just that one season of my life, and
Oh, good.
And then you
That was
go
a neat
on.
experience,
no,
I'm
we
sure.
went on a mission trip together to Dominican Republic and
Oh.
did all kinds of fun things. But
Huh.
and another book that I bought is Nonviolent Communication. All you people out there, anybody that has a relationship or has to interact with anyone, get this book. I have given this lecture that I created based off of this book for years to professionals, because you know how many negotiations there are professionally. So they found it to be very helpful, but also just personally, we have a lot of violence in our communication these days. Have you noticed?
Now, when you say violence,
Yeah.
what do you mean? Not just
I
hitting?
mean, it's not friendly.
Not,
Our
so
words
you're,
are not
you're not
friendly.
just saying physical violence.
No, I'm saying nonviolent communication. So the words that we use are typically violent, or they ignite violence. So
Right.
for the first part of it, it goes into making an observation versus an evaluation. So let's say, you know, you're wanting your daughter to answer the phone, and you call her up and you're like, you're ignoring me. Well, that's an evaluation. Ignoring, you're assuming you know what she's doing. And so she's going to get heated because she feels judged. Instead of saying, you did not answer the phone. That's a concrete observation.
Right.
And then part 2 of that is you state how you feel about it. And there's all kinds of appropriate feelings in here that you are supposed to use, like when your needs are being met and when your needs are not being met. So you might say you feel aggravated or afraid because you start to panic. But then there's some feeling words that go, they're hostile words like these: abused, or let's see, in this situation you definitely wouldn't say let down. I feel let down. So if you were to say that, she's going to be like, oh no, I didn't let you down. I love you. I love you so much. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm just trying to take a nap. But that's going to ignite a different conversation than you just say, I felt afraid that you might be held against your will. And then part 3 of that is you express your need. And that, I need, and here they all hear, I need protection from life-threatening forms of life. So I need to know that you are protected. Or maybe you need closeness, just so that you know she's okay. And then the last part of that was you make a request, not a demand, where you're like, you will answer your phone when your mother calls you. That's a demand.
Is that not good?
No. Okay. No, that's that's igniting. Difficult.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so you might say instead, try and let me know when, if you're not going to be available, or
I think I do that sometimes too.
It's hard to when you get worked up to use this formula. It's extremely effective if you want to get your message across. Now, I can't guarantee that your request will be made. She may be like, no, I'm not texting you when I'm taking a nap. And then the process starts all over. I noticed that you said you're not going to text me when you're taking a nap.
This could be the never-ending conversation.
It could be.
But we'd be communicating non-violently.
Exactly, and that's
the goal.
That's the whole point of it. So those are some fun books, some helpful books, and then lastly, I have to mention before we run out of time. And I may have lost it because I was looking up something else. Can you pull it up?
Let's see if I grabbed it here.
Maybe I pulled it up.
Here it is.
Here it is. Yeah.
Okay, we both found it at the same time.
Ben Sasse, is that his Sasse?
Yes.
The Vanishing American Adult: Our Coming of Age Crisis and How to Rebuild a Culture of Self-Reliance. That sounds like a real...
I see that's a bestseller now. So
the reason I mention this is you probably cannot run into my father-in-law right now, Dr. Philip Burns, without him mentioning this book. He feels like this is extremely valuable for everyone to read. I'm waiting on my copy because he said that he was going to hand it out, and so I haven't read it yet. But it's talking about the importance of working, our children working, because it thinks that the next generation, I guess, is kind of vanishing.
Can I just read briefly from the description?
Yeah.
In an era of safe spaces, trigger warnings, and an unprecedented election, the country's youth are in crisis.
Yeah.
Senator Ben Sasse?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
yeah.
let's say that's it. Senator warns the nation about the existential threat to America's future, raised by well-meaning but overprotective parents and coddled by well-meaning but misbegotten government programs. America's youth are ill-equipped to survive in our highly competitive global economy.
Right.
Well, and books like this are very interesting because, as we talked about Hillbilly Elegy, when you read them, you may or may not agree with them.
Right.
But it helps you understand a different viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Or solidifies why you believe what you believe.
Yeah.
And maybe bases it a little more on fact instead of emotion.
Mm-hmm. another one for you guys to pick up at home if that topic interests you. I'm definitely going to read it at some point.
You may have to pass it along to me.
Okay,
so
good. I'll do that. But thank you
that's
for
an
joining
interesting
me again.
subject. Thank you for having me. I always enjoy
books.
talking with you.
And I hope you guys have some time to read. Make time to read. It is valuable for multiple different reasons, and it does help you to live well. So y'all take some time, and I will see you next week. Thanks.